The Irish language is an extraordinary complex language. You have Middle Irish and Old Irish and Classical Irish, and you have this palimpsest of language that you can go back and you can trace the roots and you can see where things come from. And it's the language which is a central kernel in that identity to Ireland now. Not just simply as a linguistic space, but I would say perhaps more profoundly in the psyche of Irish people. And for me, that's important because it's important in a contemporary globalized society that people hang on to what distinguishes them from other people. I teach literature written in Ireland that's written both in Irish and in English. What I'm looking at is the way in which poetry that was written in the 17th century and the early 18th century, how that was translated into English and how it was curated in a sense, especially in anthologies. And anthologies really had a major role to play in the way in which Irish literature in the Irish language was curated for an Anglophone public. People wanted to establish that the Irish language and the Irish speakers came from a tradition of written language, of complicated meters, of trained poets, of an intricate system that was reflected in the literature of the age. I'm really interested in the Irish language poet Sean O'Riordan. He has a wonderful poem, and it's possibly one of the first poems of his that I learned when I was a child. It's called Coolan Tea. It says, Tá tír na nóg ar Coolan Tea, tír
At the back of the house is a land of youth, a beautiful, untidy land where four-footed folk wend their way without shoes or shirt, without English or Irish.
I love the idea that there are things going on at the back, behind, a bit like in a tapestry. I'm interested in the back of the tapestry. I'm interested in the knots and the joins and the things that come together out of sight. And his poem is an invitation to that. It's an invitation to that topsy-turvy place that's behind the house. It's all of those things that you've stored away and the things that you mean to use. And for me, the relationship between Irish and English is a bit like that. The most recent work that I've been doing has drawn on sociological frameworks to create a database of information in spaces where archives don't exist for the moment. And that has been especially helpful in documenting groups of poets who haven't come to the attention of the public beforehand. I also find a sociological approach to networks really helpful. So looking at the networks that have been put in place to offer supports to writers, looking at the grants that are given. And it's also interesting to look at mentorship schemes to see how younger writers are being helped by older writers and how a whole ecosystem has been created. One of the projects that I'm really excited about starting here in Notre Dame is a project which I've called Translating the Sacred. And I think translating the religious is an approach that can help us unify Ireland North and South. I think that it's a project where we could bring together historians, linguists, classicists, but also community members of religious groups in Ireland. Because if we take, for instance, the translation of the Bible into the Irish language, that was a project that was started by Queen Elizabeth I. It's an indication of how translation was central to the policy and to the politics. And at Notre Dame, we're lucky enough to have a copy of that Bible in the library in the special collections. It's called Bedell's Bible. I think the impact of seeing the actual volume is always important, and it's a way of anchoring the project. Research is wonderful, but I think it's very important that research shouldn't be something that one does in a little ivory tower all by yourself. It's important for our students to be involved in our research and to see the impact of it and to see the tools we use. And I think that's where the Bedell Bible here at Notre Dame can be an important element in drawing them in. Notre Dame is a great place to work in. It's a place where languages are respected, where, for instance, all arts and letters students have a language requirement. And I think that shows the importance that Notre Dame places on the humanities in general. That really is an indication of the type of intellectual community that is thriving here at Notre Dame.